Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. In less than 24 hours, farmers across the country will be recognized for feeding the country and their invaluable contribution to the growth of the economy. The annual Farmers' Day celebration, to be held tomorrow in the Ashanti regional capital, will spot the best farmers and award them for their efforts. But ahead of that event, the Agricultural Workers Union GAWU is questioning the objective of several policies being implemented by government for the agri sector, including the importation of seedlings for its flagship Planting for Food and Jobs program. They're warning it could cause the entry of genetically modified foods onto the Ghanaian market and put the consumer at risk. GAWU is also against the declaration of 1st December as holiday just to celebrate farmers. I'll speak to their leadership shortly, but first let's bring you an excerpt of a documentary on the major attack on the industry this year, the fall armyworm invasion. Rampaging Soldiers was put together by my colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo.
Like the locusts that attacked the people of Egypt in the biblical days, so has the destruction been across our farmlands with the invasion of fall armyworms. Despite repeated assurances from officials that the invasion is under control, farmers continue to reel under the pressure of these novel pests devouring their crops.
Initial stage of the infestation, it may look to be like the ordinary ordinary worms that do affect our crops. But get to the later stage, you realize they destroy everything, unlike the armyworm, the ordinary armyworm, which do affect the maize. But this one, they infest and destroy everything.
My name is Joseph Opoku Gakpo, and in this edition of Hotline Christian Rampaging Soldiers, I take you on a tour of some farming communities to assess the level of damage that these pests have caused to fields and how farmers are struggling to recover. Additionally, we will be asking the question about how this would impact government's flagship Planting for Food and Jobs policy.
The pests enter the maize and chew them up. Then the maize turns red. There are some of those pests on my farm. I have a 3-acre farm.
How many acres?
3 acres. I have used some chemical on it already, but nothing has changed.
I've never seen these kinds of pests on my farm since I started my work as an extension agent. They usually hide in the corn. They chew and defecate in it, disrupting the growth of the corn. My 3.5-acre farm is more than 2 months now. They should have been ready for harvest by now, but because of the pest, that has not been possible.
Pest attack is a major threat to food security all over the world, with an estimated 1/4 of crops produced being destroyed by them. African farmers have battled pests for several centuries now, including the African armyworm. But for the first time last year, the fall armyworm, a pest native to the Americas, invaded Africa and Ghana, destroying crops beyond salvage.
There's a paper that I read that had attempted or that had done some characterization using molecular techniques. And they found two strains. Actually, even in America, they have two strains, what we call the rice strain and then the maize strain. And they found both strains in Africa. The people also suggest that these strains are genetically distinguishable, but morphologically they are quite identical. And when they did the molecular analysis, they found two halophytes, and the presence of the two halophytes suggests that we possibly have both strains from the Americas in Africa. But the presence of the two suggests that they might have come in multiple introductions, because one introduction possibly would have brought only one of them. But the fact that we have the two, at least they might have come in two introductions.
The name fall armyworm is deceptive. They are not exactly worms. They are the caterpillar or young versions of moth or butterfly. They feed on more than 100 plant species, including maize, rice, sorghum, cocoa, vegetables, and cotton. Fall armyworm has a voracious appetite and can reproduce and spread quickly, given the right environmental conditions.
Fall armyworm is a creature which arrived on the shores of Africa only 2 years ago from North America. And in a very short space of time, it spread all over Africa. This problem is not only in Ghana, it's reported in Uganda, it's reported in Kenya, and many other places around Africa. And we in Ghana are having our fair share of this outbreak.
They are called fall armyworms because they mainly emerge and destroy crops in Northern and Southern America during the fall season or autumn, when temperatures are fairly warm to cold. And when they attack crop fields, they march along the ground like a vast army of worms in search of more food. After mating, female moths lay egg masses of 100 to 200, usually on the underside of leaves, and within a few days, the young larvae emerge and start feeding actively.
They are very, very reproductive. They produce quite quickly. In fact, the adult female lays 150 to 200 eggs per time and can lay up to 1,000 eggs within a lifetime. The eggs mature quite quickly. Within 10 days, you have the 10 days or so, you have the larva, the young larva, which there and then begins to devastate crops. So their reproduction is also very fast, and they can dominate an area within a short time. Some of these lepidopterans, they have diapause where, especially when the environmental conditions aren't conducive, their development ceases, like they stop their development for a time. But these guys are able to develop all the time. They generally do not have the diapause characteristics. So that is also the other thing. And then how they reproduce. If the adult female wants to lay, it lays in hidden places, underneath, maybe at the back of the leaf, or in the funnel of the plant. So normally when you want to spray and you want to control with contact insecticide, for example, then it wouldn't be effective because they are mostly hidden. And they are also not quite active, especially the larvae, not quite active during the day. They're active during the night. So if you also target your control mechanisms or control practices during the day, then you are missing them, because they can hide and they're also active when you are not active.
The first time farmers in Ghana saw the fall armyworm invasion was last year. They destroyed an estimated 4,000 hectares of crop fields. When the rain stopped and the farming season ended, they vanished, only to resurface in March this year at the start of the rainy season. As at the end of April 2017, government claimed an estimated 1,500 hectares of farm fields had been destroyed. Listen to our Greek Minister, Dr. Akoto Owusu-Afriye, address a media briefing earlier this year. Dr. Uswefriye promised the devastation will be over soon.
So we are confident that by Friday, these chemicals will be out to the districts that are affected. And the districts affected, most of them are in Brong-Ahafo region, Ashanti region, and parts of Western region. We continue to monitor the situation, and we are sure that by the weekend, the spraying will start in earnest to be completed in a matter of days. And the experience that we gained from last year was that the armyworm is very sensitive to the chemical that we are going to apply, and we are confident once we have adequate application, we'll be able to eliminate the danger.
He gave the following reassurance in this JoyNews interview.
This is very limited. The armyworm, as of last week, had destroyed nearly 1,400 hectares. That's all. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of hectares in this country, but it's under control. We've been in the field. You've seen them spraying. The areas that they've sprayed, the armyworms have been killed off. We are still distributing. So by the end of this week, all the districts, all the farms affected would have been sprayed, and that will be the end of the armyworm.
But that was not meant to be. Deputy Agric Minister Dr. Sugri Bambagni gave the following update when he appeared before Parliament on the 12th of July 2017, putting the figures of affected fields at more than 100,000 hectares.
Currently, the fall armyworm has spread to all the 10 regions of Ghana and is estimated to be affecting 112,812 hectares of farmlands with an estimated 14,430 hectares destroyed completely.
We had a report from the Ashanti region on armyworm invasion, specifically in Ejisu Dwabin, affected cocoa farms. Later, we had information when our team from the regional administration, NADMO, and MOFA visited the area. They saw that the worms are spread to other crops farms, that is maize. We are talking about maize, we are talking about other crops. And so we managed to send a few chemicals to the Ashanti region for them to start spraying. But later, when we sent information to all the regions, alert all the regions to be alert on this armyworm, we later had a report from Brong-Ahafo and Ashanti region.
All 10 regions of the country have recorded incidents of fall armyworm invasion. I took a tour of some affected areas. Let's begin in the central region, where more than 1,500 hectares of farmlands have been destroyed. In the Asin South district alone, the farms of about 250 farmers growing about 4,000 acres of farmlands have been destroyed. District Chief Executive Derek Owusu-Ambrose says the invasion is getting out of hand.
Actually, we have a district committee, and I'm the chairman for that committee in charge of the control of this armyworm infestation in our district. And for now, we have about 80 acres of farmland. It's totally destroyed by this fall armyworm infestation. And though we are doing our best, government has supplied chemicals. We also form a district spraying gang. But since the rate at which the infestation is going is getting out of our hand, I don't know whether maybe there have been some sort of resistance to the chemicals that we are using at the moment. The farmers will be spraying, but day in, day out, you see reinfestation. The ones that we sprayed, you see the worms reinfesting that same farm. I don't know whether maybe it has got to do with the eggs. It could be that maybe the eggs, the chemicals do attack the worms, leaving the eggs. So the new eggs hatch and there's reinfestation. So I think we need to do more research about this kind of infestation. The worms look simpler, but the rate at which they destroy it and the mechanism at which they attack the farms.
All right, so that documentary was put together by Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, who will be joining me shortly in the studio. But on the telephone lines now with me is Edward Kariwa. He's the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. Sir, thank you very much for your time here on the Pulse. Now, you have expressed serious concerns. Before that, though, tell us a bit about the impacts that the fall armyworm episode has had generally on the agricultural industry.
Yeah, let me say good afternoon to you people in the studio and you those who are making it possible for some of us to make a contribution to this important discussion. The impact of the fall armyworm will be fully realized when we have the planting season is over. You know, we have two planting seasons, one for the northern part, which has just ended, and then two for the southern part. So full impact will be realized after those planting seasons.
So you won't be able to quantify or tell us what impacts there has been generally?
Well, generally it will be a negative impact to the agricultural production, particularly for maize. So that will be the impact. It will be a negative one.
Right. Well, let's look at the press statement that you put out this morning. You've raised serious concerns about genetically modified foods, for example, and the thought that those will be entering Ghana. They put the life of consumers at risk, etc. But what's really prompting this at this time when the debate has been going on for some time now, for a year?
Come again, that last part of your...
I'm saying that why are you raising, what's prompting your concerns at this time about GMOs when the debate has actually been going on for some time?
Yes, it's a continuum. And then what is a continuum? We are raising it this time because development at this time it seems to be exacerbating the issue. One, if you look at the planting for food and jobs, much of their seed was imported. And again, in 2018 budget, the planting for food and jobs is going to be expanded. This time is going to be more than double the number of farmers that were involved in the 2017 program. So it therefore means that more seed will have to be imported in 2018. Okay. Now, when you are making imports, you take account of quality and then price. And what we are likely to go in for, given the fact that we are not all that so endowed with resources to go in for very high cost seed, we may be tempted to bring in seed that knowingly or unknowingly is GMO, and it will be a tacit means of introducing GMO seed into our agricultural system. And since the GMO seed has far-reaching consequences on our agricultural system, given the stage that we are in its development, we think that we must bring it to the fore for all of us to take steps and make sure that entering into the 2018 season or program of planting for food and jobs, we should be mindful that we do not create the avenue to introduce GMO into this country.
In your press release, you and let me quote directly from it. You say GAWU is also worried that the government's unbridled importation of seed for the Planting for Food and Jobs program has a high chance of introducing GMO seed into the country. Do you have any evidence that there's anything close to this suggestion you make And that is also a part of what's prompting you to come out?
I think the statement or that particular sentence is self-explanatory. One, we have stated categorically, which is true, that there is an unbridled importation of seed, and it would increase in the 2018 because we are now covering 500,000 farmers, and they will not have the seed to be able to meet the program. The seed will have to be imported now. So that is it. And we are saying that it increases the chance, a very high chance of bringing in, because once you depend on imports, you have less control over the quality and some of the negatives that go with imports into your country. More importantly, where our institutional standards and framework is weak to check in these bad things that come into our country.
Okay.
So we have made it categorical that it has got a very high chance, and we hope that government will listen and
hopefully they will. But then, with or without importation of those seeds, which one makes the lives of farmers better and makes our agricultural sector generally better, with imports or without imports of those seeds?
Well, we need to try and develop our own seed.
But in the meantime, we don't have that capacity, right?
I'm not sure that we have got the capacity to indeed provide our seed, given the rate at which we want to go with the planting for food and jobs. And you recall that even in the 2017 program, we had complaints from the Ministry of Agriculture, and that the seed breeders in this country were unable to provide all the needs that all the seed that was needed for the planting for food and jobs. And you are now, and I'm not aware that government has put in place so robust infrastructure development to assist those who produce the seed in this country to be able to more than double their production capacity of seed.
Okay.
And that is the reason why we see that much of the seed will have to be imported, and that puts us at a very risk level
of
introducing GMO.
It does look like government really has limited options if we are not able, at this point, we are not able to produce those locally. But you're also asking for an abolition of the Farmers' Day. And you make your reasons quite clear. But really, is this, I mean, is a day set aside to celebrate farmers? Isn't it good enough?
Well, first and foremost, we need to separate the recognition to celebrate farmers from the public holiday. The day has been set aside in the year, which is the first Friday of December, to recognize and to celebrate farmers. Not only that it is in the name of the farmers, but that particular day, farmers are giving awards throughout the country. It's great enough. But when you now give a public holiday in the name of the farmers, and that's the question we are asking, are the farmers benefiting from that holiday?
Those who have worked hard get to be recognized, and then everybody gets to know that, well, what are we doing? Why is it a holiday? And you say, well, it's a day set aside to celebrate farmers. Are you not underestimating the sort of impacts, that good or positive impacts that a day set aside like this could make in the lives of farmers? Then they know that we recognize them as a country.
I'm saying that we are not against a day set aside to recognize them, but we are concerned about the holiday. And I'm saying that the holiday is not fun. Farmers do not benefit from the holiday. And what does it mean? Farmers have got many problems begging for solutions. We should address those ones. But you get a public holiday, no farmer or farmers will not leave their farms because you have declared that day a public holiday, except for those who are going to receive awards on that day, and yet the country loses so much money. According to the estimates, it is up to 63 to 65 million Ghana cedis that the nation loses for every public holiday that we do not go to work. Now, if we are going to lose such a colossal amount, and we are saying that if, for instance, that public holiday is converted into money, and that money is used to plow back in the agricultural sector to make market access ready for farmers, that would be more beneficial to them and to all of us than the holiday.
Very well, sir. I'm going to let you go, but have you engaged the Ministry of Agriculture with these concerns?
No, we have just raised the concerns.
Okay. All right. Sir, thank you very much for your time here on The Pulse. I've been speaking with Edward Karuwa. He's the General Secretary of the General Agric Workers Union. Joseph Opoku Gakpo, the farmer, has joined me in the studio. Gakpo, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yes, great. Celebrating Pre-Farmers Day.
Oh, is it? Interesting. Okay, so what do you make of GAWU's concerns about GMOs generally?
A few things. First of all, there is general scientific consensus that GMOs that have gone through various regulatory procedures are safe and that they don't harm the health of people. From the World Health Organization, the Food and Drugs Administration in the US, Ghana's own Food and Drugs Authority, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. But it's a conversation that's similar to what we see on climate change. Do you know there are those they call the climate skeptics who still think that climate change is not real and that it's an invention?
I know Donald Trump is one of them.
That's the point. But then the scientific community is generally of the firm consensus that once the GMOs have gone through the necessary regulatory procedures, in fact, the claim is that, not the claim, but the actual situation is that they go through more rigorous tests than conventionally produced.
They do have concerns about ownership of the seeds, etc., which is, I guess, something that would have to keep debating as a country and take a position on. But I know you can talk and talk and talk if I allow you.
Just briefly, they are getting concerns about ownership of seeds which have been produced through the conventional methods that are hybrids, because the evidence is that for the hybrid ones that involve two very different parents, once you plant the seed and you pick those same seeds and replant, yield will decrease. Those are not GMO products. So farmers are always encouraged to go back to the original producer to get the seeds if they want increased yield.
Very well.
That's not a problem with just GMO.
Okay. Well, what about Farmers Day? They're asking that Farmers Day be scrapped. And he makes it. It kind of makes sense. If we're losing about 65 million, and that 65 million could be converted to support the industry, that's all the better. Would you say that the Farmers Day, celebration has made any positive impact on the industry?
In 2012, when I was a third-year student at KNUS, the Faculty of Agriculture.
Someone has calculated your age already.
They should hold on. They may get it wrong. Myself and a number of friends wrote an article and made this same point, that we felt Farmers' Day celebration was not impacting on agricultural productivity. We raised a number of issues, including the investment that go into the celebration, the fanfare. And then there were additionally concerns about the fact that you celebrate Farmers' Day and you recognize farmers who own 2,000, 3,000 acres. Who are rich. They have more than enough money. They can do everything for themselves. And those are the people that I target with all the goodies, the
tractors, these days politicians are going into the same area
and then they benefit. So the small-scale farmer, who constitute the majority of farmers in this country, are not benefiting from the Farmers' Day celebration. Again, there was the point that if you would want to celebrate someone for winning the ultimate as Farmers' Day, which is something which happens today, why give them a house? Why not give them something rather which could have a rippling effect on agricultural productivity itself?
But
again,
they give them cutlasses,
which is completely out of place, because you thought you had moved on from there, and that we would want to encourage ourselves that going forward, a lot more agric mechanization and focus on a lot more. So I think the whole concept of Farmers' Day has a lot of trouble associated with it. Growing up now, I wouldn't support the call for it to be abolished, but I think some modifications are necessary.
Unnecessary. Great way to end it. But finally, Joseph, the focus on job creation for this year's Farmers' Day, will it see the creation of any more jobs in the sector?
So we are told that the theme is farming for food and jobs, and government talks about how they would want to let the theme this year be job creation. But the other bit is this: look, planting for food and jobs policy, for example. How many more jobs will they create? These are farmers who are already people who are in the field with their own lands and everything, and you supply them with subsidized fertilizer and seeds.
You expect more yield, and then you can put in more laborers.
Look,
maybe
that obviously doesn't work. Nowhere in this world has the focus on job creation as a program being on agricultural productivity and farming specifically. Usually the focus is on the other activities higher up the value chain, processing, the services sector relating to agriculture, and getting the food out there. Usually that's where the focus.
So government is better off focusing on those areas rather than focusing on the farmers themselves and improving.
And this whole idea that a lot more young people should go into farming. Let's give them more seeds. Let's give them land. We have about half of our population already engaged in farming. So how many more young people do we need in farming? Will the jobs come? We'll have to see, but I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced. We'll see how it goes. So you engage them for us when you go to Parliament. Let them know that this doesn't look as feasible from a scientific or agriculturalist point of view.
I'll do my best. Opinions are varied though on that. We'll see how it goes.
Very well. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is very good when it comes to agriculture. He studied it. He's followed it quite a lot and quite extensively, and he's done a lot of journalistic work on it as well. So his opinion, you do hear that it makes a lot of sense. Well, away from that, we'll be talking school reunions, and I'm coming to say something I really don't want to say. Okay, let's just say we'll come back with a discussion on schools reunions. Stay with us.